The Valori homeworld had not changed. The black crystal palace still stretched toward the sky. The three suns still burned overhead. The nobles still stood in neat rows, their silver skin shining, their faces cold and proud. But something was different now. There was fear in their eyes. Lyra walked through the great hall with her head held high. Daniel walked beside her, Emma holding his hand. Guards lined the walls, but they did not stop her. They could not. She had been invited, and she had come on her own terms. The throne still sat at the end of the hall, massive and dark. Emperor Valdis sat upright, older now, his silver skin faded to gray. His eyes followed Lyra as she approached, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty in them. Prince Kale stood beside the throne, as he always had. He was older, too, his handsome face now marked with lines of worry. When he saw Emma, his expression flickered with something like shock. The child was real. The impossible child was real. Lyra stopped at the foot of the throne. She did not bow. She did not kneel. She simply stood, looking up at the father who had abandoned her. "Daughter," Emperor Valdis said. His voice was rough, as if the word was unfamiliar on his tongue. "You have returned." "I am not here as your daughter," Lyra replied. Her voice was calm and clear. "I am here as myself, as a mother, as a woman who learned the truth about your traditions." Murmurs rippled through the court. A woman speaking to the emperor this way was unthinkable. But no one moved to stop her. They needed her too much. "You said you wanted to understand," Lyra continued. "You wanted to know how I, a barren princess, gave birth to a healthy child. So I will tell you. But you will listen. All of you." She turned to face the crowd. Thousands of nobles stared back at her. Priests in their ceremonial robes. Generals in their armor. Women who had passed the trials and women who had failed. All watching. All waiting. "I was never barren," Lyra said. "The trials did not prove I was defective. They proved that your traditions are flawed." Gasps echoed through the hall. The High Priestess Mira, ancient and bent, stepped forward with fury in her milky eyes. "You dare question the sacred rituals?" she demanded. "The traditions that have guided us for 1,000 years?" "I question what failed me," Lyra said firmly. "And what is failing you now?" She gestured to Daniel, who stepped forward with a small device in his hand. He activated it, and a holographic display appeared in the air above the crowd. Charts and diagrams and medical data, translated into Valori script. "This is what human medicine discovered," Daniel said. "Every woman's body is different. Fertility cycles vary from person to person. Your sacred window assumes every woman works the same way, but that's not true. Never was." He pointed to a chart showing hormone levels across different cycles. "When a woman doesn't conceive during your 30-day window, it doesn't mean she's broken. It might just mean her cycle doesn't match your calendar. That's biology, not defect." The court was silent. The priests looked at each other with confusion and anger. But some of the women, the ones who had passed the trials, leaned forward with interest. And the ones who had failed, the ones pushed to the margins of society, stared at the hologram with tears in their eyes. "The plague destroying your empire is connected to this," Lyra said, taking over. "Generations of rigid practices have damaged your population. You rejected women who were perfectly healthy. You praised women whose bodies matched your calendar but were actually struggling. You never adapted, never questioned. And now your stubbornness is killing you." Prince Kale's face twisted with rage. "This is lies. Propaganda from the primitives who stole you." "Then explain her," Lyra said, pointing to Emma. Emma looked up at her mother, then at the angry man near the big chair. She did not understand what was happening, but she was not afraid. Her parents were with her. That was enough. "I was declared barren," Lyra continued. Thrown away as a joke. Given to the primitives because you thought I was worthless. And yet here I am, healthy, happy, a mother. If your traditions were true, Emma would not exist. But she does. So either your traditions are wrong, or your gods made a mistake. Which is it? The hall exploded with noise. Nobles shouted at each other. Priests argued among themselves. Some demanded Lyra be arrested. Others demanded she be heard. The chaos grew until Emperor Valdis raised his hand for silence. Enough, he said. The hall fell quiet. The Emperor stared at Lyra for a long moment. Then he spoke. You were my daughter once. I sent you away because tradition demanded it. I did not think about whether tradition was right. I only followed what was done before. He paused, his voice heavy. Perhaps I was wrong. Kale spun to face his father. You cannot be serious. She returns with a half-breed child and a human mate. And you listen to her? I listen because our people are dying, Valdis said sharply. And because she holds the answer we could not find ourselves. He turned back to Lyra. What would you have us do? Lyra had thought about this moment for months. What she would say. What she would demand. She could have asked for revenge. She could have asked for Kale to be punished, for the priests to be removed, for the Empire to kneel before her. But that was not why she came. I want nothing from you, Lyra said. I have a home. I have a family. I have everything I need. Then why did you return? Valdis asked. For them, Lyra said, pointing to the women scattered throughout the crowd. The ones you declared broken. The ones you cast out. The ones suffering right now because your traditions told them they were worthless. I came to give them hope. She looked directly at the crowd now, speaking to the women who had failed, the women who had succeeded but felt empty, the women who were afraid. You are not defective, she said. You never were. Your bodies work differently than they expected. That does not make you less. It makes you individuals. And you deserve care that sees you as individuals, not as machines to be tested. Tears fell on silver faces. Women reached for each other's hands. Something shifted in the great hall. Something that had been frozen for 1,000 years, finally beginning to crack. Daniel stepped forward again. We brought medical protocols, training guides, everything you need to adapt your practices. We're not asking for payment. We're offering help. But you have to be willing to change. Emperor Valdis was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he nodded. We accept, he said. Kale stormed out of the hall without another word. The priests grumbled, but could not argue against the emperor's decision. And the women, the forgotten women, began to hope. Lyra stayed on the homeworld for 3 months. She worked with Valori doctors, teaching them human techniques. She met with women who had been declared barren, showing them that they were not broken. She watched the first new protocols being implemented, saw the first positive results beginning to appear. But she did not stay forever. On the day she left, Emperor Valdis came to see her off. He looked older than ever, worn down by years of pride finally meeting truth. You could stay, he said. Reclaim your title, your place in the succession. Lyra shook her head. I have a place already. It's on a small planet with green forests and blue lakes. In a house with a garden and a kitchen and a daughter who asked too many questions. She looked at Emma, who was tugging Daniel's arm, eager to get back on the ship. I came here to show your people the truth, Lyra said. Now they have to choose what to do with it. That's not my responsibility anymore. Valdis nodded slowly. Then go, and know that you will always be welcome here if you change your mind. Lyra turned and walked toward the ship. Daniel took her hand. Emma ran ahead, laughing, ready for the next adventure. As the ship rose into the sky, Daniel looked at Lyra. "Any regrets?" he asked. Lyra watched the black crystal palace shrink below them, becoming smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely. "None," she said. "I said what I needed to say. Now I want to go home." Daniel smiled. "Home sounds perfect." Emma climbed into Lyra's lap and pointed at the stars appearing in the window. "Mama, are we going back to the house with the garden?" "Yes, baby," Lyra said, holding her close. "We're going home." The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, and the stars turned to streaks of light. Behind them, an empire struggled to change. Ahead of them, a small house waited on a quiet planet. Lyra closed her eyes and smiled. She had been given away as a joke. She had returned as a mother. And now, finally, she was going where she belonged. Home. Jake Miller was having a normal day. He was lying on his back under a broken air vent, trying to fix a fan that had stopped working 3 days ago. His hands were covered in grease. His back hurt from the hard floor. But this was his life, and he was okay with it. He was just a mechanic. Nothing special. He came from a small town on Earth, joined a space program because he needed money, and ended up here on Nexus 7. It was a giant space station where aliens from all over the galaxy came to trade and talk. Jake fixed things. Pipes, machines, doors, whatever broke. Nobody noticed him, and he liked it that way. But today was different. Today, something was happening in the diplomatic wing. He could hear it from where he lay. Screaming, crashing. The whole station seemed to shake. Jake pulled himself out from under the vent and wiped his hands on his pants. He should probably stay away. The diplomatic wing was for important people. Ambassadors, royalty, politicians. Not mechanics, but the sounds got worse. Glass breaking. People yelling. And underneath it all, he heard something else. Something that made his heart feel heavy. A child crying. Jake started walking. He did not know why. His feet just moved. He walked past the warning signs, past the guards who were too busy running the other way to stop him. He walked until he reached the big double doors of the main meeting hall. What he saw inside made him stop. The room was destroyed. Tables were flipped over. Chairs were broken into pieces. Important-looking aliens were hiding behind pillars and under desks. In the middle of it all stood a small girl. She was not human. Her skin was silver, like metal that had been polished until it shone. Her hair was white and floated around her head like she was underwater. Her eyes were bright purple and filled with tears. She could not have been more than 5 years old, and she was screaming. Every time she screamed, things flew. A chair shot across the room. A table flipped over. A tall alien guard tried to get close, but an invisible force pushed him back so hard he crashed into the wall. Jake had heard about this. Psychic powers. Some aliens had them. They could move things with their minds, read thoughts, do impossible things. Humans did not have these powers. Scientists said human brains were too simple, too closed off. Other species called humans deaf minds because they could not hear or feel. Psychic energy. Jake had always thought that was a little insulting. But right now, watching this little girl destroy everything around her, he understood why some aliens thought psychic powers were important. Near the back of the room, he saw a tall woman watching the child. She was the same silver color, with the same purple eyes. But where the girl was wild and scared, this woman was still. Too still. Like she was made of ice. She wore a long black dress covered in tiny jewels that looked like stars. A thin silver crown sat on her head. Jake knew who she was. Everyone knew. Queen Viradil of the Silvari Empire. One of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy, and she looked helpless. Her hands were pressed against her chest. Her lips were moving, but no sound came out. She was watching her daughter fall apart, and there was nothing she could do. Jake did not think. He just walked forward. Someone grabbed his arm. A human woman in a guard uniform. "Are you crazy?" she hissed. "That kid will kill you." Jake pulled his arm free. "She is just scared." He kept walking. The closer he got, the more he felt it. Pressure, like the air was getting thick. His head started to hurt a little. His ears rang, but it was not so bad. He had felt worse headaches after drinking too much beer with Emma on Friday nights. The little girl saw him coming. Her purple eyes went wide. She screamed louder, and a wave of force hit Jake in the chest. He stumbled back one step. Then he kept walking. The room went quiet. Everyone was watching now. The guards, the ambassadors, the queen. They all stared at this dirty human mechanic walking toward the most dangerous child in the galaxy. Jake stopped about 5 feet away from the girl. He slowly sat down on the floor, crossing his legs. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal puzzle. It was just a toy he liked to play with when he was bored. A bunch of connected rings that you had to separate. He started working on the puzzle. His fingers moved slowly, carefully. He did not look at the girl. He just focused on the rings. The screaming stopped. Jake kept working. Click. One ring came free. He smiled a little and held it up, looking at it like it was the most interesting thing in the world. He heard small footsteps. Then a shadow fell over him. He looked up. The little girl was standing right in front of him. Her tears were still wet on her silver cheeks. Her hair had stopped floating and now hung around her face. She was staring at the puzzle in his hands. "What is that?" she asked. Her voice was small and rough from crying. "It is a puzzle," Jake said. "You take it apart, then put it back together. Want to try?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then she sat down across from him, copying the way he sat with his legs crossed. She held out her small silver hands. Jake gave her the puzzle. She turned it over and over, looking at it from every angle. Her forehead wrinkled as she tried to figure it out. She was just a kid trying to solve a toy. Just a normal kid. "I cannot do it," she said after a minute. Her lower lip started to shake. "I cannot." "That is okay," Jake said quickly. "It is hard. Took me 3 days to figure it out the first time. Here, let me show you." He moved closer and pointed at one of the rings. "See this one? You have to twist it like this, then pull." The girl tried. The ring clicked free. Her eyes went wide, and a tiny smile appeared on her face. "I get it," she whispered. "You did," Jake said. "Good job." Behind him, Jake heard someone let out a long breath. He turned his head and saw the queen standing there. She was staring at him like he was some kind of impossible creature. Her ice-cold expression had cracked just a little. He could see the mother underneath. "How did you do that?" she asked. Her voice was sharp, but there was something else in it. Something that sounded almost like hope. Jake shrugged. "I just gave her something else to think about." He turned back to the girl. She was working on the next ring, her tongue sticking out a little as she concentrated. "What is your name?" Jake asked her. "Lyriel," she said without looking up. "That is a nice name." "I am Jake." "Jake," she repeated. "That is a funny name." Jake laughed. "Yeah, I guess it is." Queen Viradel watched them for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the room. She bowed her head. Just a little. Just for a second. But she bowed to a human mechanic sitting on the floor with her daughter. "You will come with us," she said. It was not a question. Jake looked at the little girl, who was now trying to put the puzzle back together. Then he looked at the queen with her broken eyes and her heavy crown. He should say no. He was just a mechanic. He did not belong with queens and princesses and psychic powers. But the little girl looked up at him with her big purple eyes and asked, "Will you show me more puzzles?" Jake smiled. "Sure, kid. I have lots of them." And just like that, Jake Miller's boring life ended and something new began. Jake followed the Silvari guards through the long silver hallways of their ship. His heart was beating fast. He had never been on an alien royal vessel before. Everything was smooth and shiny, like walking through the inside of a pearl. Soft purple lights glowed from the walls. There were no wires, no bolts, no screws. It was like the whole ship was grown instead of built. The guards stopped in front of a tall door. It slid open without a sound. Inside was a room bigger than Jake's entire apartment back on Nexus 7. The walls were covered in curtains that moved like water. The furniture was white and curved in ways that did not look comfortable for humans. And standing in the middle of it all was Queen Viralu. She had changed her dress. This one was dark purple, the same color as her eyes. Her silver crown was gone, replaced by a thin band of metal around her forehead. She looked less like a queen and more like a tired mother. "Leave us," she said to the guards. They bowed and walked out. The door closed behind them. Jake stood there, not knowing what to do with his hands. He was still wearing his dirty work clothes. There was grease under his fingernails. He probably smelled like machine oil. "You should be dead," the queen said. Jake blinked. "Sorry?" She walked closer. Her steps were silent on the smooth floor. "My daughter's psychic waves have thrown trained warriors across rooms. They have cracked metal. They have broken bones. And yet you walked through them like they were nothing." "I felt them," Jake said. "They just were not that bad. Like a headache." The queen stopped in front of him. She was taller than him by at least a foot. Her purple eyes searched his face like she was looking for something hidden. "Humans," she said slowly. "Your species has no psychic presence. You cannot send thoughts. You cannot feel the minds of others. My people have always called you deaf minds. We thought it was a weakness. Most people do," Jake said. "But now I wonder." The queen tilted her head. "Perhaps being deaf to psychic energy means you are also immune to it." Jake shrugged. "I do not know anything about that. I just fix air vents." For a moment, something like a smile touched the queen's lips. Then it was gone. "I want you to spend time with my daughter," she said. "Her tutors cannot get near her without getting hurt. Her guards are afraid of her. She stopped. Her hands closed into fists at her sides. "Even I cannot hold her when she cries." Jake felt something twist in his chest. This powerful alien queen, ruler of 1,000 worlds, could not hug her own child. "How long has she been like this?" he asked. "Since birth. Her powers are too strong for her small body. She cannot control them. When she feels anything too strongly, happy or sad or scared, the energy explodes out of her." The queen looked away. In Silvari culture, a royal child who cannot control their powers is considered cursed. There are nobles who say I should give up my throne because of her. "That is stupid," Jake said without thinking. The queen's eyes snapped back to him. "Excuse me?" Jake's face got hot, but he did not take it back. "She is just a kid. Kids are messy. They cry. They break things. That does not mean they are cursed. It just means they need help learning." The queen stared at him for a long, silent moment. Then she let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in her chest for years. "Will you help her?" she asked. Jake thought about his job. His small room. His boring, safe life. Then he thought about Lyriel's tear-stained face and the tiny smile she had made when she solved the puzzle. "Yeah," he said. "I will try." The next few weeks changed everything. Every morning, Jake went to the Sylvari ship and spent time with Lyriel. At first, she was scared of him. She would hide behind furniture and peek out at him with wide eyes. But Jake was patient. He sat on the floor and worked on his puzzles. He did not push her. He just waited. Slowly, she started to come closer. First, she sat a few feet away from him. Then a few inches. Then right next to him, leaning over to watch his hands. Finally, one day, she climbed into his lap without asking. Jake froze for a second. Then he kept working on his puzzle like nothing had happened. "Teach me," Lyriel said. So he taught her. He taught her how to build things with small blocks he brought from the human market. He taught her simple card games. He taught her how to draw silly pictures of animals. He told her stories about Earth, about dogs and cats and ice cream and snow. She laughed at his jokes, even the bad ones. She clapped her hands when she won at cards. She drew pictures of him with a big round head and stick arms and gave them to him like they were precious gifts. And slowly, the tantrums stopped. Oh, she still got upset sometimes. She was still a little girl. But now, when she felt the energy building inside her, she would grab Jake's hand and squeeze tight. The pressure would build, then slowly fade away. His touch seemed to ground her somehow, like he was a wall that the psychic waves could not get past. The Sylvari court did not know what to think. Ambassador Kale, the Queen's chief advisor, thought it was dangerous. "He is a human," he said one night when Jake was not around. "They are primitive. They have no power, no history, no culture worth speaking of. And yet you let one of them touch the princess?" Queen Viradil did not look up from the report she was reading. "He makes her better. He makes you look weak," Kale said. "The other noble houses are already talking. They say you have lost your pride. They say, I know what they say." The queen's voice was cold. "I have heard the whispers my entire reign. But my daughter smiled today. She laughed. She ate her dinner without breaking a single plate. She finally looked at Kale. I would make deals with far worse creatures than humans for that." Kale had no answer for that. Meanwhile, Emma Torres was giving Jake a hard time. "You are playing with fire," she said one night in the station bar. She was Jake's best friend, a fellow human engineer with short red hair and a sharp tongue. Alien politics are dangerous. People get killed over this stuff. Jake sipped his drink. "I am just babysitting. You are living on a queen's ship. You are eating at her table. People are starting to notice you." Emma leaned forward. "Did you know there is a betting pool on the station about why the Sylvari queen keeps a human around? The most popular guess is that you are a spy." Jake choked on his drink. "A spy? I cannot even keep secrets from my own mother." "I know that. You know that. But they do not know that." Emma sighed. "Just be careful, okay? I do not want to find you floating in space because you upset the wrong alien lord." Jake thought about her words that night as he walked back to the Sylvari ship. She was right. He was in over his head. He did not understand alien politics. He did not know the rules of their games. But then he reached Lyriel's room, and she ran to him with a big smile on her face. "Jake! Jake, look what I made." She held up a drawing. It was a picture of 3 figures holding hands. One was tall and silver with a crown. One was small and silver with floating hair. And one was shorter with brown hair and a big smile. "That is Mother," Lyriel said, pointing to the tall one. "That is me. And that is you. We are a family." Jake's throat got tight. He knelt down and hugged her, careful and gentle. "It is beautiful," he said. Over Lyriel's shoulder, he saw Queen Viradil standing in the doorway. She was watching them with an expression he could not read. Her eyes were soft in a way he had never seen before. Jake realized something then. He had not just become part of Lyriel's life. He had become part of something bigger, something he did not fully understand, and whether he was ready or not, there was no going back now. Lord Sethron was not a patient man. He had waited for years for Queen Viradol to fail. He had watched and waited for her cursed daughter to destroy everything. He had planted seeds of doubt in the noble houses, whispered about the Queen's weakness, built alliances in the shadows, and now, just when victory was close, a human had ruined everything. He stood in his private chamber on the Silvari flagship, his silver hands gripping the edge of his desk so hard the metal bent. His advisors stood around him, silent and afraid. "Tell me again," he said, his voice quiet and dangerous. "Tell me how a primitive, mindless creature from a dirt planet has done what all our doctors and teachers could not." One of his advisors cleared his throat. "The human seems to have a calming effect on the princess, my lord. Something about his lack of psychic presence makes him immune to her outbursts. She has not had a major tantrum in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Sethron wanted to break something. For 5 years, the princess's curse had been his greatest weapon. A queen who could not control her own child was a queen who could be replaced. But now that weapon was being taken from him by a human who fixed broken pipes. This cannot continue," he said. "The queen grows stronger every day. The other houses are starting to doubt our cause. We must act now before it is too late. What do you suggest, my lord?" Sethron smiled. It was not a nice smile. The human must have an accident. Something tragic. Something that cannot be traced back to us. 2 days later, Jake received a message on his personal device. It was from the Queen's office. There was a supply shuttle making a short trip to a nearby moon to pick up some rare materials. The shuttle's climate system was acting up. Could Jake take a look at it during the flight? It was a simple job. Easy money. Jake said yes without thinking twice. Emma did not like it. "Something feels wrong," she said as she walked with him to the shuttle bay. "Why would they ask you? They have their own mechanics." "Maybe their mechanics are busy," Jake said. "It is just a quick trip. A few hours there and back. Let me come with you." Jake shook his head. "You have your own work. And someone needs to stay here in case Lyriel needs anything." Emma grabbed his arm. "Jake, please. I have a bad feeling about this." He smiled and patted her hand. "I will be fine. I will be back before dinner. Save me some of those noodles from the Earth food stall, okay?" Emma did not smile back, but she let him go. The shuttle was small but nice. Jake found the climate control panel and started running checks. Everything looked normal. Maybe a sensor was loose somewhere. He would have to dig deeper once they were in flight. The pilot was a Silvari woman who did not talk much. That was fine with Jake. He was not great at small talk anyway. They took off smooth. The stars stretched out around them like diamonds on black silk. Jake had been in space for years now, but it still took his breath away sometimes. So much beauty. So much emptiness. So much unknown. He was just about to open the climate panel when he heard a sound behind him. Jake turned. His heart stopped. Lyriel was standing in the doorway of the cargo hold. She was wearing her favorite purple dress and holding her stuffed animal, a funny-looking creature that Jake had given her. "Lyriel?" Jake's voice came out high and strange. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to come with you," she said, smiling. "Mother said you were going on a trip." I hid in the back. Jake's mind raced. He needed to tell the pilot. They needed to turn around. The Queen would be worried sick. He was about to call out when the shuttle shook. Hard. Alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed. The pilot shouted something in Silvari that Jake did not understand. The shuttle shook again, and this time it did not stop. Jake grabbed Lyriel and pulled her close. "What is happening?" he yelled. "Engine failure." The pilot shouted back. The fuel lines have ruptured. We are going down. Going down. They were going to crash. Jake looked out the window. The moon they had been heading to was getting bigger fast. Too fast. They were falling toward it like a rock. The pilot fought with the controls, but nothing worked. The shuttle spun and shook. Lyriel screamed and buried her face in Jake's chest. He could feel her powers starting to build, the air getting thick around them. Lyriel, listen to me. Jake grabbed her face and made her look at him. I need you to stay calm. Can you do that? Can you be brave for me? Tears ran down her silver cheeks. I am scared. I know. I am scared too. But we are going to be okay. I promise. He did not know if that was true, but he said it anyway. Jake pushed Lyriel toward the pilot. Hold her. Keep her safe. Then he ran to the engine room. The fuel lines were destroyed. Cut clean. This was not an accident. Someone had done this on purpose. Jake did not have time to be angry. He had to focus. He had to fix this. His hands moved fast. He rerouted power from systems they did not need. He sealed the broken lines with emergency tape. He bypassed the main computer and took manual control of the thrusters. The shuttle screamed as they hit the moon's thin atmosphere. Fire bloomed outside the windows. The whole ship shook like it was going to fall apart. Hold on, Jake yelled. He pulled hard on the manual controls. The shuttle's nose came up. Not enough. They were still going too fast. Jake saw a flat area ahead. A dry lake bed, maybe. It would have to do. He cut the thrusters and let the shuttle glide. The ground rushed up at them. Lyriel was crying. The pilot was praying. Jake just held on and hoped. They hit the ground hard. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Jake was thrown forward and hit his head on something. Stars exploded in his vision. Then everything went dark. When he woke up, he was lying on cold gray sand. His head hurt. His arm hurt. Everything hurt. But he was alive. He sat up slowly and looked around. The shuttle was a wreck. Half of it was buried in the sand. The other half was smoking. But it was mostly in one piece. Good enough. Lyriel? Jake's voice cracked. Lyriel. Jake? He turned. Lyriel was crawling out of the wreckage. She was dirty and scared, but she was okay. The pilot was behind her, limping but alive. Jake let out a breath he did not know he was holding. He pulled Lyriel into his arms and held her tight. You are okay, he whispered. You are okay. Lyriel was shaking. Jake, I was so scared. But I did not break anything. I stayed calm. I was brave. Jake laughed even though his eyes were wet. You were so brave. The bravest. It took 4 hours for the rescue ships to find them. Jake spent that time keeping Lyriel busy. He showed her how to start a fire using the shuttle's emergency kit. He taught her how to find the drinkable water in their supplies. He told her stories and made her laugh, even though his head was pounding and his arm might have been broken. When the rescue ships finally landed, Jake expected to see guards or doctors. He did not expect to see the Queen herself. Queen Viradil stepped off the first ship before it had even fully landed. Her silver skin was pale. Her purple eyes were wild. She actually ran, across the gray sand toward them. She reached Lyriel first and grabbed her, pulling her into an embrace so tight Jake worried she might crush the girl. The Queen was shaking. He realized she was crying. My baby, she whispered. My little star. I thought I lost you. I'm okay, Mother. Lyriel's voice was muffled against the Queen's chest. Jake saved me. He fixed the ship. He kept me safe. The Queen looked up at Jake. He was standing there, covered in dirt and blood. His arm hanging at a strange angle, his clothes torn. He looked like a mess. He felt like a mess, but Queen Viradol looked at him like he was the most incredible thing she had ever seen. She reached out and took his hand. Her touch was cold and smooth. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you for saving my daughter." Jake tried to shrug, but it hurt too much. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," the Queen shook her head. "You did what no one else could do. Or would do." Her grip on his hand tightened. "I will not forget this, Jake Miller. I will never forget this." Behind them, the wreckage of the shuttle smoked and sparked. Someone had tried to kill him. Someone had tried to kill a little girl. Jake looked at the Queen and saw the same realization in her eyes. And something else. Something hard and cold and dangerous. Whoever did this had made a very big mistake. Jake spent 3 days alone. He asked the Queen for a small room on Nexus 7, away from everyone. She gave him a nice suite, but he barely noticed. He sat by the window and stared at the stars and tried to figure out what to do with his life. Emma visited on the first day. She brought food and worried looks. "Whatever you decide," she said. "I support you. You know that, right?" Jake nodded. "I know. But I think you already know what you want to do," she added. "You just have not admitted it to yourself yet." She was probably right. Emma was usually right. On the second day, Jake called his mother on Earth. The connection was bad, with lots of static and delay, but he could still see her face. She looked older than he remembered. Her hair had more gray in it. "An alien queen wants to marry you?" she said, laughing. "Jake, when you were little, you were afraid to talk to the girl next door. Now look at you. I do not know what to do, Mom." She stopped laughing. Her eyes got soft. "Do you love her?" Jake thought about it. Did he love Viradol? He did not know. They had not had time for that. But he felt something when he was around her. Something warm and safe and exciting all at once. "Maybe," he said. "I think I could. Someday." "And the little girl? The princess?" That answer came faster. "Yes, I love her." His mother smiled. It was the same smile she had given him when he was a boy and brought home stray animals and broken things to fix. "Then I think you already have your answer, honey. You have always followed your heart. That is what makes you special." On the third day, Jake was alone in his room when the door opened. He turned, expecting Emma or maybe a guard. Instead, he saw a small silver figure standing in the doorway. Lyriel. She was wearing her pajamas. Her white hair was messy like she had just woken up. She was holding her stuffed animal against her chest. "Jake?" Her voice was small and scared. "Are you going to leave?" Jake's heart cracked right down the middle. He got down on his knees so he could look at her face to face. "How did you get here?" "I snuck onto a shuttle." She sniffled. "Mother does not know. Please do not be mad." "I am not mad." He held out his arms. "Come here." She ran to him and climbed into his lap. He held her tight, feeling her small body shake against his chest. "I heard the grown-ups talking," she whispered. "They said you might not marry Mother. They said you might go back to Earth and never come back. Is that what you are afraid of?" She nodded against his shoulder. "I do not want you to go. You are my best friend. You make the bad feelings go away. You make Mother smile." She pulled back and looked at him with wet purple eyes. "If you leave, everything will go back to how it was before. I will be cursed again. Mother will be sad again." Jake felt his own eyes getting wet. "Lyriel, listen to me. You are not cursed. You never were. You are just a little girl with big feelings. That is not a bad thing. But everyone says everyone is wrong." Jake cupped her face in his hands. "You are smart and funny and kind. You have the best smile I have ever seen. And those powers of yours? They are going to be amazing someday. You just need to learn how to control them. And that takes time. It does not make you cursed. It makes you special." Lyriel stared at him. Then she threw her arms around his neck and hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. "Please do not go," she whispered. "Please stay. Please be my family." Jake closed his eyes. He felt something settle inside him. A decision. A choice. A new path. "Okay," he said. "Okay, I will stay." The wedding was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was held on the Sylvari homeworld, a planet of silver forests and purple skies. The ceremony took place in an ancient temple made of crystal that had stood for 10,000 years. Every noble house was there. Ambassadors from 100 worlds watched, and broadcast networks across the galaxy showed it live to billions of viewers. But Jake did not see any of that. He only saw her. Vyrthel walked toward him in a dress made of something that looked like woven moonlight. Her silver crown glittered on her head. Her purple eyes never left his face. She was smiling, really smiling, and it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Lyriel walked beside her mother, carrying a small pillow with the wedding bands on it. She was beaming with pride. The ceremony was long and full of words Jake did not understand. There were traditions and rituals and vows spoken in the old Sylvari tongue. But when it came time for him to speak, he said his words in English, simple and true. "I promise to protect you," he said, holding Vyrthel's hands. "I promise to stand beside you. I promise to be patient when things get hard, and to laugh when things get good. I promise to fix what breaks and to hold on when things fall apart. I promise to love your daughter like she is my own. And I promise to try every day to be worthy of this gift you are giving me." Vyrthel's eyes were wet. "I accept your promises," she said, "and I make my own. I promise to honor your heart, to value your kindness, to never make you feel less because of where you come from. I promise to let you in, even when I want to close myself off. I promise to be not just your queen, but your partner." The priest said some final words. The bands were exchanged. And then, in front of the entire galaxy, the queen of the Sylvari Empire kissed a human mechanic from Earth. The crowd did not know how to react. Some cheered. Some stood in shocked silence. Some probably fainted. But Jake did not care about any of them. He was too busy holding his wife and feeling his new daughter grab his hand and thinking about how strange and wonderful life could be. Later that night, there was a feast. Then there were speeches. Then there was dancing that Jake was terrible at. But finally, things got quiet. Jake stood on a balcony of the Sylvari Palace, looking up at unfamiliar stars. The night was cool and smelled like flowers he did not have names for. In his arms, Lyriel slept with her head on his shoulder. She had passed out about an hour ago, exhausted from all the excitement. He heard soft footsteps behind him. Then Vyrthel was there, standing beside him. She had taken off her crown. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked less like a queen and more like a woman who had just had a very long day. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. Jake looked down at the sleeping child in his arms. Then he looked at the woman beside him. Then he looked up at the strange stars. "No," he said. "Not even a little bit." Vyrthel smiled. She leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder next to her daughter. "My people have a saying," she said, "that home is where your heart finds peace." Jake nodded. "Humans have something like that too. We say home is not a place. It is people." They stood there in silence for a while, just breathing together. Two people from different worlds, holding a sleeping child, looking at the stars. "Thank you," Vyrthel whispered. "For what?" "For calming her that first day. Staying when you could have left. For being brave enough to say yes." She paused. for changing everything. Jake kissed the top of her head. Thank you for asking. For seeing something in me I did not see in myself. For giving me a family. Lyriel shifted in his arms, mumbling something in her sleep. Then she smiled and snuggled closer. Jake smiled too. He was a long way from Earth. He was married to an alien queen. He was the stepfather of a psychic princess. His life had become something out of a crazy story. But standing there, on that balcony, with his wife beside him and his daughter in his arms, Jake Miller knew one thing for certain. He was exactly where he was supposed to be, and somewhere across the galaxy. Humans everywhere were raising glasses and telling the story of the mechanic who captured an empire. Not with weapons or power or politics, but with patience, with kindness, with a simple metal puzzle and a willingness to see a scared little girl instead of a monster, because that was what humans did best. They found the broken things and fixed them. They found the scared things and calmed them. They found the lonely things and loved them. And sometimes, just sometimes, that was enough to change the stars. The end.